Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVey, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. And today, our guest is Ritu LeBouef. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here.
I am very excited you're here. This is going to be a fascinating conversation. It's a conversation, some experiences that I haven't quite had on the show before. So I think the listeners are going to be super interested. If you wouldn't mind, could you share just a little bit about your background, a little bit about who you are?
All right. So I am a native of India. I grew up in Hindu background, and I grew up in a middle-class family. Fortunately for me, my parents were not very religious in practicing really any religion, but I grew up in a very secular atmosphere. So India being one of the largest democracies and a secular state. So I have a little bit of introduction to all different faiths of the world. And having been grown up in the metropolitan city, my classmates belonged to all different faiths. So I have some introduction to that. So I grew up in a very tolerant atmosphere, and but which is the premise of Hinduism to begin with. And so I did not have any preconceived notions about I have to practice any faith or even my Hindu faith a certain way, which turned out to be blessing in disguise for me. I didn't have to uncondition myself from some of those religious conditionings. However, from the very beginning, the negative side of that was that from the very beginning, I had innate spiritual knowledge, which I could not put into words, but I knew that people around me were not thinking like I was. They were not questioning life like I was. And it combined with some of the other events that happened in our childhood and our life, the painful events that come in. And so combined with that, it really did cause me a lot of trauma because I could not understand where I fit in. The mundane life everybody was leading around me just did not make sense to me. And I wanted to know why we are all here. So as a tiny little child, and I remembered a couple of my previous lifetimes. And I knew I was male in other lifetimes. And so I already had a very different perspective of death and dying. I already knew the continuity of it. I knew that I am here to grow and learn. It's like a rolling ball where you just learn and you develop your perspectives. And one of the things that I knew very clearly, one of the things I'm here to learn is wisdom. That I am all powerful, as everybody is powerful, but learn wisdom to channel that power. But I did not know, it's like it's from a child's brain. All of this is that comprehension wasn't there, but the knowledge was there. And so I did not know what is determining the order of things the way they are. Why is somebody living at this address versus at that? It's like, what determines that? So which is something that I kept exploring, and as life went on. So I've had innate knowledge, and I've had, I wouldn't say it's lifetime of spiritual experiences. And then when I was 21 years old, then an enlightened master, I compare him to Lord Jesus, Buddha, and even beyond that. He came into my life, and it just from there on, my experiences became even more consistent and transformative. So one of the most transformative experiences is something that I have been talking about a lot. But there are so many other experiences, and it's just been unfolding. And in that process, knowing that everything is love, but that what we came in here as 3D life, human body, is a chip, that's full of fear. It's fear-based. So somewhere my journey is to come out of that fear into fearlessness. And that is the process for me and everybody. So learning to let go of, so we are already all perfect. It's perfect in the absolute truth of us being the ultimate, the divine. We are the source ourselves. It's just what we have taken on, the conditioning, societal conditioning, and lifetimes of layers of conditioning, that is the process where we gain the wisdom to let go of that, the willingness and the wisdom to let go. And that's been my journey.
Wow. I'm so curious. As a child, when you said you kind of remembered your past lives, you didn't know then, did you, that, oh, these were past lives? Or did you realize that much later?
I knew I've been here before. It's like, well, been there, done this, done that. Like, I'm not interested when people would say, oh, about partying and, fashionable clothes. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I did not have interest in that. And that the culture is, study, because, you need to have this money and acquire all these things. And it's just from inside, I would feel very disinterested about that. It was like, been there, done that. There's no meaning in that. And so
interesting.
There is something more I have to learn. There's something more I have to go for, something else I have to discover. And I didn't know what, but.
Did you share this with your parents or siblings, these kinds of feelings?
No, because I did not know how to voice that. And I was by nature a very introvert, shy, timid person. And I don't blame anyone for not understanding and almost getting scared of this, my type of thinking and my behavior that was shaped by my introspective nature. I wasn't the types to voice, but also for the reason I knew that nobody understands that, because they were so rooted in the way the culture is and the society is, which is kind of the same, everywhere. This is what you do. This is the pattern you follow. And the culture and the family itself has extremely restrictive, defined role for a female. And it is true in Eastern culture more so. Within my family more so, it was extremely, and it's generational, so extremely defined and restrictive. And so my atmosphere wasn't like where anybody could think beyond that. And so you were expected to comply to that and live up to that. And my thinking did not fall anywhere within that structure. So that became a little confusing and traumatic for me.
Okay. And you said by the time you're 21, you did meet someone that connected with all of your thinking. Is that true? Is that correct?
So I did not get any explanations, but what I found was an anchor. So one of the first questions that it was just the difference that I felt, this immense, this love that I felt coming from my guru that I had not experienced in my 3D world before that. It's like there is something different here. And maybe this is the person I can approach to ask him some of the burning questions inside me. And I asked him the one thing that we are all worried about, the heaven and hell, right? So I asked him, I said, is there really heaven and hell? And because, see, I am approaching the question from knowing that there is no permanent heaven or hell because I've already had lifetimes. So this is a journey. And so I was very confused. And it's like, is there really like a permanent physical heaven and hell? And he said, no, there isn't. And it's all your state of mind. And that somehow, not that I understood it in its entirety, but it somehow gave me a lot of peace. And then I knew, okay, the whole drama, the whole game is about your mind. And so it's your mind versus whatever we call God, source, ultimate truth, universe, whatever the consciousness, whatever we call, is the game between that and the mind, our individual mind or collective mind. And it somehow, it made me feel like, okay, I sort of know now what to do, where to go. And then I asked him some other question, which I don't remember what it was, but he looked at me and said, all the answers are within you. Go experience them for yourself. And it had so much finality to it that I knew that I can no longer approach him with questions. It is something I have to experience them for myself, which later on I learned that is what true Hinduism is. That is what Sanatan Dharma. So Hinduism is a popular word, but the original word is Sanatan Dharma, that the basis of Sanatan Dharma is that you finding the ultimate truth, your own divine truth, is experiential. It's not based on belief. It beliefs and studying can give you direction, but it is based on your own experience. And so it wasn't a 1, 2, 3, like a direct path like that, but along the way, I started having experiences little by little, giving me more answers. And then eventually I had my most transformative experience, from which then I did change my direction 180 degrees and how I was leading my life. So
I'm curious, how did you meet this guru?
So one of the sayings is that when the student is ready, teacher will appear. And so when you are ready, based on this lifetime and the whole culmination of your previous lifetimes, your journey, the teacher's guru knows and he or she will appear. It does not mean that happens every time. It may be that you are seeking one and it may seem to you that I found that guru, but the guru allowed himself or herself to be found by you. So I had no concept of guru. Like I said, I did not have any explanations from anyone around me, but he just appeared in my life. My father, my parents, as generally all Hindus are, they are very respectful towards any saints or whoever they know to be enlightened. And they may not understand what enlightenment is, but if they see any saints, anybody walking the spiritual path, it is just within the Hindu culture to be extremely respectful and seek their blessings. So luckily for me, I've had blessings of many, many enlightened masters, but I did not connect with them as I felt with my guru eventually, who became my guru. And so he was just one of the ones that I was meeting, and he happened to visit our house. My father requested him to visit our house, as all of them do. And he happened to visit our house, and I didn't particularly feel anything or know anything. But then we ended up going to his ashram, and that is where I saw miracles happening. And then I also have that feeling that there is something very different about him, and I should approach him and ask him questions. So it was, but even after that, I didn't really know what a guru is, what an enlightened master is, and I wasn't seeking. So I will truly say that he called me to him. And I just because I already had the passion to find answers. So I guess I just progressed much more rapidly in the journey of spiritual journey.
Very interesting. I love that. The culture and bringing them in like that. Wow. So would you mind if sharing your first experience? You call it an STE, spiritually transformative experience, if that's okay, or if you wanted to share something before that, that's fine too.
Yeah, I would want to clarify what you would mean, because I cannot just say one experience, because I think I was always floating in between having recognitions within me of insights coming within me. I want to share with you that I did not know that this was one of my past lifetimes, but I felt like I was a Catholic nun in one of my lifetimes. And that vision of that nun self would appear to me so much. So a lot of the insights that would come to me will be in my dream. And I am this nun, and these answers are being given to me. And I would wake up totally delighted that, oh, I got this answer today. And then like, wait a second, I don't know what that language was. So much later on, now I think maybe that was Latin, or could have been, I don't know. But I would so subconsciously, I would receive answers, and I would go about the day feeling extremely happy that, oh, I got answer to something. I don't know what it was. So a lot of those, and then eventually later on, some of the mediums and psychics told me on their own without me ever bringing it up. They didn't even know me, just me walking into a holistic fair and talking to someone. Three different times I was told you were a nun in and so a lot of little things like that. I don't know where to pinpoint exactly. But one of the major ones that really got my attention, that was completely out of my radar of any conscious awareness of what spirit guides are, or having visions like that. which really got my attention, was at a point when I was wanting to change so I had an IT career. And I was wanting to change my job because my company was merging into different corporations. So we were told, we're wrapping it up and you can look for other jobs. So I was this very left-brained, I have to analyze. So I grew up like that, even though that's not my nature. I grew up like that. You have to think and you have to make these pros and cons and you have to apply logic to everything. So I was very conflicted between two different places I should join. And I had offers from two different companies. And I felt happier with one company that offered lesser perks and lesser paycheck than the other one. And logically, the other one was perfect. And I had not learned to connect to my intuition. I had not learned to connect to my feelings or even to recognize them. I had completely then conditioned out of it. And so I was so torn and conflicted into which one I should. And the other one, it had great perks, but I knew that it would really not fit in with my family life. And so I had two little children at that time, and that the hours that it would take and the commute and all that would be major adjustment. And that's what was not feeling good to me. But like I said, I was completely disconnected from defining my feelings or connecting with them. And in one of those moments, I reached out to a friend, and my friend just said, asked this question that nobody had ever asked. He said, when you think, tell me which one makes you feel happy, which was like, wow, nobody ever asked me that. And it's like, well, this one makes me feel happy. So it's like, well, that's the one you should go in for. It's like, really? Okay. So here I am sitting in my bed, ready to go to sleep, and just now feeling like, okay, I have made a decision and it's just that this weight lifted off of me that I have decided right then with my open eyes. I just felt like these beings on my right side, just so many of them, just delirious with joy and like somersaults and just yahoo and screaming and just like besides themselves with joy. I'm like, what is this going on? And it's like, we're so happy. Don't you see? Don't you see? And I'm like, what do I see? What is this? What are you so happy about? And then suddenly I see this vision. And this is where, what they call bilocating, trilocating, where there are three versions of me, and each one is experiencing each other.
Okay. Yeah. No, I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so there is this bullet train, like a white bullet train coming at speed, and it's on top of the mountain, and it's train tracks. So here is me sitting in the bed, and here is a version of me that's watching that. There's another one of me sitting inside that train, and that train is coming from the left side at great speed. And then I noticed that there is this big space between, there's huge, like bottomless valley, you can say, the space between the mountains. There are two mountains, and I know, like a panic, that this train's going to go down into this bottomless pit because, it's not connected. These train tracks are not connected.
Mm-hmm.
And there is that moment of panic. And then I noticed that this train takes up absolutely lightning speed, like beyond lightning speed. I don't know what speed to call that, speed of thought. It picks up that speed and it goes right over that gaping wide space, and just jumps over right to the other side. And so then this is what they're referring to. It's like, don't you see? Don't you see? This is you. This is you. And then you did it. And so then I understood that this decision that I made was somehow going to be although it didn't seem like, this is not such a huge thing. I mean, we make decisions like these, but somehow this was going to be extremely important, and that my life, the way I had been leading it, was going down the drains, perhaps, because they showed it to me in that vision format, that train was going going to fall into the pit.
Right.
And now you've crossed it. And literally after that, that was my first. I did not even understand there was completely out of any conscious knowledge I had of having these experiences or visions or trilocating, and that each one of me was experiencing each other. So that awareness came to me that I exist at multiple levels, and we are all. And so there were many other experiences, like in my deep sleep. I have so many, so I don't know, you'll have to stop me.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So that was one of your earlier experiences. Around what age was that? Or, I mean, it sounds like you've kind of been experiencing things for a very long time, but when was that experience?
Yeah, so this was that was completely, totally out of my conscious knowledge and radar. So I found it very important. So this was I was 30, maybe 33.
Okay.
34 years of age by this time.
Yeah. And you still had not been studying under anyone, meditating, those kinds of things?
Not so I was doing mantra chanting.
Okay.
And because I always had affinity for it, and my guru had given me a mantra, and so I would chant that. And but basically that I wasn't actively meditating. I did not, because I was very from academic, intellectual environment. And my life was basically my family and my IT career. And my focus was, going upwards towards in my IT career. So, and there was nobody around me that was talking about these things. So I was a complete loner in that. Wow. And I had nobody to discuss this with. Now, remember, this is also, we did not have cell phones, and we did not have access to search engines and to look for that information. I had no awareness as to who I could connect to.
And you didn't share this with your husband, some of these things that you're experiencing?
No, because I had just always become accustomed to people around me didn't question these things, didn't talk about these things. They were not interested in these things.
I see. Right. Makes sense. The mantra then, did you do that as a way to get some peace, settle your soul? Like, what was the reason that he gave you? What did it do for you to do the mantra?
So at that time, I did not even know that the importance of the mantra that guru gives you, an enlightened master gives you. I didn't even know that, but it just made me feel good. You can say that was my entertainment. This is what I was, such a, like I said, a very introverted, a homebody. I did not party. I did not have a lot of the material desires that people had. Do small talk, have social circles. I might as well could have been a monk somewhere. I just happened to be in the material world, but my inner being was just very monk-like. I did not have interest in fashion or going shopping or so it was very hard for me to have social circles because nobody connected with me. I've always been a loner.
Do you think the mantra helped with your vibratory frequency, those kinds of things? I've heard that that can help.
Yes. And so absolutely, I give credit to everything. It's my guru's grace. Everything that I experienced and that I was experiencing is his grace. And I did not even know how. I wasn't even doing it diligently, like as a practice. It was just something because I'm by myself, sitting by myself. So I'm just wanting to do it without really realizing what I'm doing. And I didn't have a structured practice around it, which later on I did.
Okay.
And it all started once I did join my other office. That is where, just in very quick succession, lots of transformative experiences started happening.
I'm real curious because I did hear about one of your experiences that I would love the listeners to hear, if that's okay.
Yes.
It was the one where you were meditating with a group.
Yes.
When did that happen? And could you share a little bit about that?
So that was just about a year into me starting at this new job that I took on. And I became, because all of these now experiences were happening. And so I would receive a lot of information in my dreams. And so I was given these are like rapidly moving circles. I could illustrate it, but I still don't know how to describe that. And it seemed to have just like it described the whole meaning of life, seemed to be. And so that was one of the ones that got me so curious. I wanted to understand, like find an explanation for it. And that is when I started looking in Yellow Pages, where are some metaphysical bookstores or where I could find some explanation from someone, I could meet someone. And in that process, I located a metaphysical bookstore. And I started going to a few little groups for meditation. And that is where I also learned that I am an empath. Nobody told me the word empath at that time, but then I'm extremely sensitive to energy, that I pick it up. And so it was just tiny bits of these information coming to me in different ways that made me more and more curious to explore what it means. What does it mean? What does it mean? What is energy? There's nothing in IT coding about energy. What does it mean? I'm sensitive to it. And in that process, I also found this metaphysical bookstore, and I started going to the meditation group over there. And one of these days I went into deep meditation where others got up and left, and I did not hear any noise. I did not realize that everybody had left. And I kept sitting, and then suddenly around 9 p.m., I came out of my meditation, and then I quickly went outside to the entrance of the you can say like the bookstore, and then there was a meditation hall attached to the bookstore, and I went towards this like, oh, let me catch hold of the owner, because, she might know what book to refer, what book to, guide me towards a book that might have an answer for me. But then I saw, it's 9 o'clock and she's hurrying to wrap up and leave. She's pretty much waiting for me to leave. So I had great sense of peace from that deep meditation. And I was not a very assertive type to see. Now I am, at that time it's like, okay, I'm disappointed. I couldn't ask her. I'll ask her another time. I was one of those very timid people. I don't want to impose on anyone. And I stepped out into the parking lot, very tiny little parking lot, and there was no traffic around. Pretty much bright, let's say like no clouds or anything. So nice weather. And there were only 2 cars in the parking lot, the owner's car and my car. So I very absentmindedly, I got into the car, and it's like, what does it mean? I still don't know. And I put on my seatbelt and put the key in the ignition. And right when I turned on the key, I heard this enormous explosion. And for a split second, I thought, my car blew up. And, but then the next moment, I am in this expansive, what do you call, universe, just 360 degree. I am this, what now I would call like just consciousness. There was nothing but that. And then to shorten it, because it can be, it was very long, so it could be very descriptive. It is in the book that by Claudia Edge, We Touched Heaven. But in short, I was completely soaked in love. And this love, I had never experienced that love. It was not like, whatever this love was, it wasn't like it had love or it was offering love. Like its very essence was love. And it was like you take a piece of cloth and you dunk it in water, bucket of water, and you pull it out, and the drops are just dripping off of it. It was like that it was just love, and it was just these love drops were just dripping out of it. And these love drops was everything that we see as manifest. So everything that was manifesting, every tree, every blade of grass, every insect, every creature that is a manifested form, were these love drops that were just, it could not help but just be, it was just everything, unmanifest and manifest was this love. And I noticed I just crying, bawling and bawling. And then I noticed that I'm not aware of my physical body, but I notice that I'm in space, and there are these billions of stars that are coming towards me at lightning speed, and they are not touching or exploding into the windshield. Now, I wasn't aware of my physical body or that I'm in the car, but they would come like right next to the windshield and just disappear. But they are floating in that this is all space. And I'm just noticing I'm crying. It's like I'm just overwhelmed with this love. And then I am like, how am I separate from this? how am I separate from this love? And there's this love is yearning for me to be it, and I am yearning to be it, and I am overwhelmed with the emotion of the separate, conscious of the separateness, and overwhelmed with this emotion of just this love that is just indescribable. And it just felt like I cannot touch this love. Nothing can stain this love. Like it's purer than pure. And next moment, I become it. I am this love. I am purer than pure. I am the one from whom these love drops are falling. I am the the absolute, the unmanifest, and the manifest. This is all me. This is who I am. I am that.
Wow.
I am it. This is who I am. And then the next moment, I'm really summarizing it, I become aware of, so I call this the macro self. I become aware of this mini self that somewhere in this human body, I'm still not experiencing my human's body, physical body, or where I am, but I become aware of this macro self, and my macro self somehow squashed inside this mini self. And then I become aware of this awareness, that I am experiencing both simultaneously, the macro self and the mini self. Wow. And then I'm wondering, but then what is this mini self doing? And then this awareness coming to me that my own macro self, me, the macro self, is wanting to, is just delighted. Now, the words beyond the beyond, I don't know how to describe that. Indescribable delight and love with wanting to experience my own infinite self with the perspective of this mini self. And it's almost like a suspense and a thrill and the delight. I mean, delight is, there are no words in dictionary, but just like loving, it's just like, you're creating something and you're watching a suspense movie. I want to experience myself through my mini self. And then I become, and so this entire time I am still bawling, like nonstop. It's just my heart is exploding and I'm bawling, and I'm still seeing these, I'm still in the space, the stars coming. And then this conscious thought comes to me. It's like, who is this who is noticing this awareness, who is processing this information and questioning this, like, why am I this and why am I that? Who is this mini self? And then my attention went towards, like, right where my physical head is. If I had been able to experience my physical body, like somewhere around that, there is this invisible field where somehow this processing has happened. I don't know if it's seat of consciousness, and it could be that pineal gland and all the chakras, and I did not know the words at that time, and I still may not know what exactly to call it, but that awareness comes that there is a separate aspect of the mini self that has this capacity to discern this awareness and to question it and synthesize this, and that is an integral part of the mini self. And And then, but this extreme pain came into my body, not experiencing my body, but in my awareness, it's like, where did we go off track? So I'm experiencing my mini self as like this collective consciousness thought that how did we get off track? Like, there is no possible way to get off track. It's all love. It's all so pure, and that macro and mini is all love. It's made out of love. How did we get off track?
Yeah.
And wow, there's so much violence and hatred, and where did that come from? And I'm just bawling and bawling, and just my heart is just breaking. It's still, how did we get off track? And the next moment I notice is the first time I become aware of my physical reality is that I'm in my driveway and I am turning off the ignition of my car. And I step out of the car. For the first time, I become aware of my physical reality. And I'm still, it's just like I'm still vibrating and I'm still soaking in love. And I open the door and I estimate it must have been 10:15 p.m. or so, because that's how long it would have taken me to drive from that place back to my house. I walk in, my children were sleeping and my husband was sleeping. And so I walked in very slowly, and I noticed my toddler son, making little noise. So I didn't want him to wake up. And I went and picked him up and just rocked him for a few seconds. He went back to sleep, put him down. So I had that much physical awareness to do that. And then I came back went into the guest bedroom, sat up in the bed. And as soon as I sat in the bed, the whole experience started again.
Wow.
But this time there were other dimensions. Now, this time there was sound and smells. So I started hearing chants. So because I'm familiar with Sanskrit and Sanskrit chants, and so this was almost like, I don't know if you're familiar with the ancient sages that would sit and they would do the holy fire ceremonies called yagnas, chanting these sacred chants and putting these sacred ingredients, you can say, that they put into the fire, and they chant mantras. And so it's unison. I don't know, 100 or 1,000 or millions, I don't know. But it was like this group, just unison. And it's not from hearing from physical ears, but there's this absolutely divine, just this unison chants going on. And then the smell that comes from putting those ingredients in the fire. And so the closest I can describe it like sandalwood, but it was just beyond that. And that's filling up my nose, my nostrils, and filling up my forehead and just going into my head. And it was just I was like, I'm going to, every fiber in my body is just ready to explode. It's just the love, the sounds, the smells. And I'm estimating I must have been there for at least 4 hours or so, but it went by. I was not aware of, there was no space, there was no time, no awareness at all. It was later on, I'm calculating based on other things that must have been that long. And I just reached, it's like I'm going to explode into gazillion pieces. Like, I cannot absorb this. I cannot handle it. And at that 1 second, I was just like, not an actual scream, but like the scream came from inside me saying, I cannot take this anymore. And that very instant, everything stopped. And
Wow.
then I was completely exhausted because I also had been crying that entire time. We're crying for 15
Hours.
minutes, we feel exhausted, and here
your hours. That's got to be one heck of a spiritually transformative experience. That, yeah, that's amazing. And you're having, well, this sounds like one of a major one. I know you've had a lot of things, and so now, because we are getting out of time, I'm so curious now, as you go through all of these experiences, did you begin to put these to use in your life in a practical way?
Yes. And so I just started having this very strong feeling inside me that this is not, or more like a voice inside me, just boomeranging. This is not what I came here for, like this IT career, right? Or whatever the way life I was leading, that my work is with people and it's to do something, something to help people. And I quite didn't know what. And then I started exploring, and that's where I found energy healing. And so there were lots of other, it was like my guru or God, you can say, came in form of beings in front of me to give me answers, to guide me. They'd come and disappear. They'd appear literally like you and I are talking, just like regular human beings. They'd guide me. This person would know everything about me inside out. They would tell me, guide me, give little direction, and disappear. And so a lot of those things happened. And ultimately, I did quit my career, which I loved. I loved it. So it wasn't like, and I was kind of at the peak of it. And so that is why it wasn't out of, wanting to leave it. So, that's how much this had overpowered this knowing that I have to go in a different direction, even though everything was perfect about my career. I loved everything about it. And I was really enjoying it. But despite that, and so it started off, so everything was very organic. Healing started to happen because I became aware of my empathic energy and capacity to heal. And healing, not me to heal, but be an instrument for the healing. So many miraculous healings happened. But during that process, I started learning that what I really want to do, as people were really wanting to share their traumas and their emotional pain and how they felt so lost, not knowing how to look at life so they could go through the ups and downs of life, but still reach a point where they could find some peace inside them. That I learned that what is more important for me to offer and for me to be able to pursue is give more of a spiritual perspective to people, or, not like as a counselor, but facilitate that for people and have them talk it out, and get in touch with their pain, whatever emotional pain, traumas, and that is where we get stuck. So even if I know that I have the willingness for spiritual progress, and even though I'm desiring it, what is blocking me? So I felt that what was more important is to know what is blocking me rather than learning tools, what I need to do, because I am my divine self anyways. I just have to let go of whatever my blocks are. And so what are the tools we can offer, and what can I I do to talk to them. So it was just very organic and intuitive. And so I have reached the point where I have my website, and I then started my YouTube channel, and then also learning to change myself, because I had been such a quiet, introvert type of person, to be
Right.
become more popular. We're so private. And so that here I am with you, and Ian's published my story.
Okay.
And then that is how then Claudia Edge, We Touched Heaven, it got published there. And since then, I've had so many interviews, and I'm trying to be more active. Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want the listeners to be able to contact you. So I'm going to put all your links up, contact information, books in the video description.
So that book, and then I am writing my own book, which is gives you, all the different aspects, your spiritual aspect, your part of your mind, our thinking process, and our emotional body. And so and how it impacts our physical body, and then how it all put together. So one is not a bypass to the other, just positive thinking is not bypass to dealing with your emotional baggage, and doing spiritual practices is not a bypass to not getting therapy for, so putting all of that together, so people can recognize where they are, where they find the blocks, and give some tools in it. So more of something that I wished I had found.
Yeah.
So, so I'm writing that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This has been such a fascinating conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
I have enjoyed talking about it.
Yes, I love this. So yeah, I'm sure people are going to want to be able to connect with you. So I will definitely be sharing all of that. Our time is up. Unfortunately, this has been so fun. So thank you again for sharing with us and taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone watching. So glad you could join us. And this has been Julie McVey with Unordinary Made Ordinary. And I hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating interview. If you did like this, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe to the channel. You're having a fantastic day or evening, wherever you are on the planet or off the planet. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.